Be'ezrat Hashem, we're beginning Sefer Ahava, book 2 of the Rambam, the book of love. And as the Rambam always does, he begins the book with a verse, somewhere from the Nevi'im or the Ketuvim, that are related to the theme of the book. And this time it's from Tehillim, Perek Kuf Yutet. It says, Ma ahavti toratecha, kol hayom hi sichati. How much I love your Torah. All day. That's what I talk about. And that's what we're learning. Now, Sefer Ahava, the book of love, the Rambam defined in the beginning of the book, that he puts into this book, Kol ha-mitzvot shehen tidirot, all mitzvahs that we do constantly, which we were given to love Hashem and to remember Him. All the mitzvahs in this book are expressions of our love to Hashem. And look what he says, Hilchotav shesh, there's 6 sets of laws, v'zehu siduran. And this is their order. Hilchot Krias Shema. First, we're going to learn about the laws of reading Shema every day. Hilchot Tfilah Birkat Kohanim. Then we're going to do the laws of prayer and priestly blessing. Hilchot Tfilin, Mezuzah, V'Sefer Torah. The laws of Tfilin and things that are similar to them, like the Mezuzot on our door and the Sefer Torah and the Aron HaKodesh. Hilchot Tzitzit, the laws of tzitzis, wearing tzitzis. Hilchot Brachot, the laws of blessings before and after food, and also blessings of praise and blessings of thanks. And Hilchot Milah, the laws of the Brit. And the Rebbe says, look at the order, it's very interesting. This book is all about mitzvot tidirot, common mitzvahs. So it goes in the order of commonality. Shema, you do twice a day. That's first. Tfilah is once a day. So it's less common, so it goes second.
So you do 3 times a day.
Well, we do it midrabanan, but midoraita, the biblical obligation is only once a day. Tfilin, we also put on once a day. But it goes right after tefillah, because tefillah is b'dibur, is with speech, and tefillin is b'maaseh, with deed. And once we're talking about tefillin, so the Rambam includes mezuzah v'sefer Torah, because they have very similar laws. Then goes tzitzit. Tzitzit, you don't have to wear all day. Today we do, but technically you only have to wear it if you have a garment with four corners, so it's much less common. Brachot, again, also biblically, is only after food, not before. So it's very uncommon. He puts tzitzit first, because we're going to see it has a reference to all mitzvot, so it includes all mitzvot. And finally, Hilchot Milah, which we do only once in our lifetime. Thank you. So that goes last. So it's an order of frequency. That's the setup of the halachot. Push this here. We'll get to it afterwards. Okay. And as we said yesterday, Ahava comes right after Mada. The first book was Mada. Second book is Ahava, because knowledge brings to love. In the Rambam's view, you think about Hashem, you understand Him, that brings you to love Him. So here we go. Hilchot Kriyat Shema. We begin the laws of Kriyat Shema. There's going to be 4 chapters. Pretty short set of halachot. Mitzvat aseh achat. It covers one positive mitzvah, vihi, and that is likrot kriyat shema pamayim bayom, to read Shema twice a day. Ubiur mitzvah zu biprakim elu. The explanation of this mitzvah will be in the following 4 chapters. It says the Rambam Perek Rishon, chapter 1, halacha aleph. Pamayim b'chol yom kor'in kriyat shema. Twice a day we read the reading of the Shema, which will soon define what that is. Ba'erev uvaboker, once in the evening time and once in the morning time. Shene'emar, as it says, uveshochbecha uvekumecha. Right, we say in Shema, you speak about them, speak words of Torah, when you're sitting or when you're traveling, when you're lying down or when you're arising, which means, according to the sages, it doesn't mean when you're actually lying down. It means at a time when normally people lie down, go to sleep, which is nighttime, and at a time when people rise, which is by day. So once by night, once by day, we're going to see exactly when during night and day soon. Halacha bet, umahu koreh. What do you read? What is the reading of the Shema? Shlosha parashiyot, 3 portions of the Torah, Eluhein, they are the following. Shema, v'hayayim shamoa, and vayomer. Like we say every day in davening, twice a day, shacharit and arvit. Umakdimin likrot parashat Shema. Says the Rambam, first we read the portion of the Shema, mipnei sheyesh ba yichud Hashem, v'ahavato v'talmudo. Because there are 3 important things. It mentions the unity of God, Hashem Echad. It mentions loving Hashem, which is a primary mitzvah. And it mentions learning Torah. Shehu ha'ikar hagadol shehakol talui bo, which is the fundamentals upon which everything hangs. You believe in God, you love Him, you have an emotional connection with Him, and you study His Torah. That's all the basics covered. The achareha, after that, we read v'hayayim shamoa, the second portion. Sheyesh ba tzivui al sha'ar kol ha'mitzvot. Because over there we find the commandment over all the rest of the mitzvot. V'hayayim shamoa tishmu el mitzvotai, we listen to all the mitzvahs, not just the basics. V'achar kach parashat tzitzit, and then finally we read the portion of tzitzit, shegam hi, yesh bat tzivui zchirat kol mitzvot, because it also has a commandment to remember all the mitzvahs, like we say, Leman tizgeru et kol mitzvatai. Through wearing tzitzit, we remember all the mitzvahs, and that's in effect a commandment to be aware constantly of Hashem's mitzvahs. So that's why we put it in the Shema. Says the Rambam Halacha Gimel, Afal pi she'en mitzvat tzitzit no heged balayla. Even though the mitzvah of tzitzis doesn't apply by night, according to the Rambam, no matter what you're wearing, even if it's a day garment or a night garment, once the nighttime comes, there's no chiyuv, there's no obligation of tzitzit. So why are we reading the third portion by night? The third portion is all about tzitzit. Says the Rambam, Kor'ina ta balayla. We still read it by night, mipnei, for another reason, because sheyesh ba zichron yitziat Mitzrayim. Because also in the third portion we have the remembrance of Yitziat Mitzrayim. Ani Hashem Elokechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Right in the end of the Shema we say. Umitzvah lahazkir Yitziat Mitzrayim bayom uvalayla. And it's a mitzvah to mention the exodus of Egypt by day and by night. Shenemar, as it says, Leman tizkor et yom tzitcha me'eretz Mitzrayim, so that you can remember the day you exited Egypt, kol yemei chayecha, all the days of your life. The sages explain, yemei chayecha means by day. Kol yemei chayecha means also by night. So we have a mitzvah to do it by day and by night. Since, anyway, we have a mitzvah by day and by night, so the sages put it in and said, read this portion also by night, so you fulfill that obligation of saying Yitziat Mitzrayim. The Rambam doesn't include this mitzvah in one of the 613, to remember Yitziat Mitzrayim. There's many reasons for this. Some commentaries say because it's not written in the Torah, b'lashon tzivui. It doesn't say it in a commandment. It says, Leman tizkor, you should remember. Like, you keep Pesach so that you'll remember, but it's not an actual commandment. The Rebbe says it's actually included in Kriyat Shema. We by saying Vayomer as part of Shema, we take care of the mitzvah right there. So it doesn't have a separate mitzvah. Yes, that's true. There are many things that we do to remember Mitzrayim. Like we say Kiddush, we do on Pesach night, we have a big mitzvah. That's actually one of the 613, to remember the story on Pesach night. But over there, it's much more involved. Tell the story, tell the miracles, etc. But over here, we just have the three basic portions. It says the Rambam Ukriat Shalosh Parashiyot Elu Al Seder Zeh. When you read these three portions in this order, Hi Hanikrat Kriyat Shema. That's what's called Kriyat Shema. So when we say in Halacha Aleph that you have to read Shema twice a day, it means this. Read all three portions twice a day. According to the Rambam, all three are the obligation. Other opinions say just the first verse. The Rambam says all three. Now the Rambam adds one more thing. Halacha Dalet. Hakoreh Kriyat Shema. When you read Kriyat Shema to fulfill your obligation, Kishu Gomer Pasuk Rishon. When you finish the first verse, Omer Belachash, you say quietly, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. It's not part of the parsha in the Torah, it's not there. But we insert it. It says, blessed be the name of the glory of his kingdom forever and ever. V'chozer v'koreh kedarko. Then you go back and you keep reading normally, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha ad sofa, from V'ahavta till the end. V'lama korin kain. Why do we have this Baruch Shem? Why is it part of the Shema? It's not part of the verses. Says the Rambam, Masoret hi biyadenu. It's a tradition in our hands. That when Yaakov, our father, gathered his children in Egypt, as he was about to die, he commanded them and he hurried them. In other words, he spurred them on. He made them be careful about the unity of God. He also commanded them, he left the last will and testament about the way of Hashem that had been followed by Avram and Yitzchak, his father. And then, he asked them and he said, Banai, my sons, Shema yesh bachem paslut. Should I be worried? Maybe there is some disqualification amongst you. Misha eino omed ini biyichud Hashem. Somebody who's not with me? Anybody not on board with the unity of God? Ka'inyan sha'amar lanu Moshe Rabbeinu. As Moshe also said before he passed away. He said, Pen yesh bachem ish o isha v'gomer. Maybe there's a man or a woman who's not on board with our agenda. So he asked, we're going to be the next link in the chain. Are you ready to go? Anu kulam ve'amru. So they all answered and said together, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And what they meant was, they were talking to him, Yisrael, because that was Yaakov's other name. Kilomar, this means to say, Shema mimenu avinu Yisrael. Listen to us, our father Israel. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is our God, God is one. We're all in agreement on the fundamental principles. Patach hazaken ve'amar, so Yaakov Avinu opened up and said, Baruch Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. It was his way of praising Hashem for the fact that all his children were believers. Lefichach, therefore, says the Rambam, Nahagu kol Yisrael. All Jews have a custom, Lomar shevach sheshibach bo Yisrael hazaken achar pasuk zeh, that we also repeat this praise that our elder Israel gave after this verse. So that's also, it kind of becomes part of the Kriyat Shema, not part of the mitzvah, obviously, but that's how we read it. Halacha He, says the Rambam now, Hakoreh Kriyat Shema. When you read Kriyat Shema, it's not just the three portions. The three portions are the mitzvah. but there's also blessings before and blessings after. Mevarech lefaneha uleachareha. We make blessings before the Shema and blessings after the Shema. Bayom, by the day Shema, mevarech shtayim lefaneha ve'achat le'achareha. We make 2 blessings before and 1 after. Ubalayla, and by night, during Arvit, mevarech shtayim lefaneha u'shtayim le'achareha. We make 2 blessings before and 2 blessings after. The Rambam tells us which ones they are. Halacha vav bracha rishona shelefaneha bayom. The first blessing before Shema by day is Yotzer Or Uborei Choshech V'chulei. You can see it over here. I just printed out a little chart over here. So number 1, that's when, right after Baruch Hu, we all sit down and we say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Yotzer Or Uborei Choshech, and that goes all the way till Lakil Baruch. It ends off Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer HaMeorot. That's the ending of that blessing. And then we have Ahavat Olam, and it ends off Baruch Atah Hashem Abocher Ba'amo Yisrael Ba'ava. Then comes the Shema. That's 2 blessings before. Right? He says, "Ubracha shniya." The second blessing is Ahavat Olam Ahavtanu. Then, well, it's the whole paragraph. It's in the Siddur. It's a whole paragraph. I just put the beginning and the end just so you can see it. Yeah, before Shema and Davening, and then B'Shel Achareha, the one after it is Emet V'Yatziv. So I know we end the Shema Hashem Elokechem Emet, but really Emet is part of the next paragraph. So it's Emet V'Yatziv V'Nachon V'Kayam V'Yashar, and that goes all the way through till Shmona Esrei, Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. In the Siddur, it's a few paragraphs, but it's all one blessing. It's all one long blessing. So we have 2 before, 1 after. Then Ubracha Rishona Shelefaneha Balayla, the first blessing before Shema by night is Ma'ariv Aravim. Again, we say Baruch Hu. Everyone says Baruch Hu together, and we say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim. See, in the gray boxes is the nighttime. So it's 4 blessings. So with his words, he makes good evenings. Then Baruch Atah Hashem HaMa'ariv Aravim. Then we start second blessing. Shniyala, the second blessing to it is Ahavat Olam Bet Yisrael Amcha Ahavta. Yeah, the everlasting love, Hashem loves us. And that ends off, Ohev Atamo Yisrael, and then we all say Shema. After Shema, same thing. Ubracha Rishona Shel Achareha, Emet Ve'emunah. Again, we end off Shema, Hashem Lokechem Emet, but Emet is part of the next paragraph. Emet Ve'emunah calls out the Kayam Aleinu, and that ends off with Gal Yisrael. And then Shniyala is Hashkivenu, is the last blessing, and then we say, Shemet Amo Yisrael La'ad, then we do Shemona Esrei. So there's 2 before, 2 after. Total of 7 blessings. In Tehillim we say, Sheva Bayom Hilalticha, I praise you 7 times a day. Talmud Yerushalmi says, that's the source for this, 7 blessings of Shema. 2 before, 1 after in the morning, 2 before, 2 after in the night. It says that Rambam Halacha Zayin, and you can see this over here, clearly over here, Bracha Rishona Shelefaneha, in the first blessing before Shema, Ben Bayom, Ben Balayla, by day and by night, Poteach Ba Bebaruch, V'chotem Ba Bebaruch. It begins and ends with Baruch. You see, there's Baruch Atah Hashem, Baruch Atah Hashem. There's Baruch in the beginning and Baruch in the end. Ush'ar birchoteha, the other blessings, chotem b'chol achat mehen bebaruch. It ends off with Baruch. They all have Baruch Atah Hashem in the end, Baruch Atah Hashem, all Baruch Atah Hashem in the end. But ve'en lahem pticha bebaruch. They don't have an opening with Baruch. This is called in halacha pticha v'chatima. This blessing has a pticha and a chatima. This blessing only has a chatima. Some blessings only have pticha. For example, we make our blessing on any food. We just say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri adama. That's it. There's only a pticha. There's no chatima. Only an opening, no ending. So in Shema, the first ones always have opening and endings. The rest only have endings. Says the Rambam, Brachot elu, these blessings, all of these blessings, im sha'ar kol habrachot ha'aruchot b'fi kol Yisrael, with all the rest of the blessings that we know that are set up in the mouths of Jews, Ezra ha'sofero bedinot tiknu. We should know that it was Ezra the scribe who led the Jews in the galut between the 2 temples and then brought them back to Israel for the second temple. He and his court, they made up all these blessings. And no man is permitted to detract or to add to them. If the sages said, end off with Baruch Atah Hashem, you can't make up your own thing and don't end off with Baruch Atah Hashem. In a place where they said not to end off the blessing with a Baruch, you can't end it off with a Baruch. In those days, today there's a Siddur, so we all know it, how it goes. But in those days, it wasn't a proper composed Siddur yet. So people had the permission, they took license to change up certain things. This you can't change up. In the same way, Makom sheyitkinu shelo liftoach bevaruch, in a place where they've established not to open up with Baruch, eino rashai liftoach, you're not allowed to open up. Makom sheyitkinu liftoach, but if they did establish to open up, to begin the blessing with Baruch Atah Hashem, eino rashai, you're not allowed to, shelo liftoach, not to open up. Klalo shel davar. Bottom line, the guiding rule over here is kol hamishaneh mimatbea shetavu chachamim bibrachot. Anybody who changes from the mint that the sages minted into the blessings, harei zeh to'eh, he makes a mistake. V'chozer u'mevarech kamatbea, and he must go back and make the blessing as it was minted. V'chol she'eino omer emet v'yatziv b'shacharit. The emet ve'emunah ba'arvit. Additionally, if you don't say those blessings of emet v'yatziv and emet ve'emunah, the blessing after the Shema, morning and evening, lo yatsa yedei chovato, you did not fulfill your obligation. It sounds like already the Rambam is saying that you have to say the blessings. They're part of the mitzvah. In Shulchan Aruch it says lo yatsa yedei chovato ketikuna. You didn't fulfill the most ultimate, proper way of doing the mitzvah. But if you just said the Shema without the blessings, you did fulfill the basic obligation. Halacha chet. Hikdim bracha shniya li bracha rishona. So here you have it again. You have two blessings before the day, two blessings before the night. You mixed up the order. You said second blessing before the first. Bein bayom, bein balayla, bein lefanaha, bein la'achareh. Day by night, before or after. Before by day is only, after by is only one by day, so you can't mix it up. But these two you can mix up. You could say hashkivenu before emet ve'emunah. Let's say you did that. Yatsa. That's okay. You fulfilled your obligation. Lefi she'en seder ba'brachot. We have a rule. There's no essential order to the blessings. However, what if you mixed up the words? B'shacharit, in the morning, patach yotzer or, you opened up properly, yotzer or u'borei choshech, v'siyem ma'ariv aravim. But when you came to the ending, instead of saying yotzer ha'ma'orot, you borrowed from the evening blessing, ha'ma'ariv aravim. You put the wrong ending. What does he say? Lo yatsa. You didn't fulfill your obligation, because the ending was bad. Patach b'ma'ariv aravim, v'siyem b'yotzer or. On the other side, if you would open up by day, with the nighttime words, but end off with the daytime words, yatsa, you fulfill your obligation. Uba'erev, in the evening it's the opposite. Patach b'ma'ariv aravim v'siyem b'yotzer or. If you opened up correctly, ha'ma'ariv aravim, but you ended off with the daytime blessing, lo yatsa, you didn't fulfill. Patach b'yotzer or v'siyem b'ma'ariv aravim. But if you began with the daytime and you ended off with the nighttime version, yatsa, you fulfill your obligation. We have a famous rule, shekol ha'brachot holchot achar chatimatan. All blessings go after the ending. In Gemara, this is called Hakol Holech Acharei Achitum. Everything follows the end. The end, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Exactly. In life also, by the way. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So, therefore, however you finish the blessing, that will define whether you fulfill your obligation. Okay, Halacha Tet. Ezehu Zman Kriyat Shema Balayla. What is the time of Kriyat Shema by night? Okay, this is a big thing. First time ever in the Rambam we're coming up about the Zmanim. So just quickly, okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but these are the basic zmanim, halachic times. Okay, in the Torah we have many times that mitzvahs can be fulfilled by. So here are the basic ones. Okay, one is called Alot HaShachar or Amud HaShachar, and it's called both. And the English is dawn, but the way it's defined is, you can see there's about 4 opinions here, either 72, 90, 96, or 120 minutes before sunrise. Big argument as to exactly how you define it. Because in
72.
Or 90, or 96, or 120. Because in the Talmud, all it says is the distance. It says it's the time it takes for a person to walk 4 meal, or 5 meal. So you have to go figure out how long it takes to walk a meal, and there's many opinions on this. Standard is 72 minutes before sunrise, but it's only 72 minutes before sunrise on an equal day. Talmud only talks about days that are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Once the day gets longer or shorter, you have to adjust it. It's proportional, not exactly fixed 72 minutes. That's why today, if you look on the charts of the Zmanim, you'll see a little different. But classically, it's 72 minutes. Other opinions that are more machmir, they say earlier and earlier. But that's dawn. The Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch seems to imply there's a big argument about what he means. But again, standardly, it's followed as 72 minutes.
What's meal?
Meal is about 2.3 miles. Depends who you ask.
2.3 miles?
There's 2 basic opinions about how long it takes to walk a meal. Some say 18 minutes. Some say 24. That's the basic opinion. So if it's 18 times 4, because it's 4 meal. So if it's 18 times 4, it's 96. But there's an opinion that says that it might be 5. So if it's 18 times 5, then you have 120. But if it's 24, 18 times 4 is 72. 18 times 5 is 90. If it's 24, then it's 96 or 120. Anyway, that's the thing. Then it goes Netzach Hama. Netzach Hama is sunrise, and the way it's defined in halacha is the top of the disk is in view at sea level. The sun is a circle, right? Modernly, in scientific calculations, they say the middle of the disk. They go by the middle of the sun when it rises, that's called sunrise. In halacha, it's the top of the disk. The top of the sun's disk ascends above sea level, Netzach Hama. That's called sunrise. Okay? On the other side, I'm going to skip this for a second. On the other side, we have Shkia, that's sunset, And it's the opposite. The top of the disk sets below sea level. So the whole sun has to go down. That's halachic shkia. And then you have tzeta kochavim, which is called nightfall, also an argument about 24, 36, or 72 minutes after sunset. In the middle, we have chatzot, which is midday. And midday is not defined by 12 p.m. Midday means you figure out when is sunrise, when is sunset, and the middle point is chatzot. And the same thing, which is going to be important for our halachot, is called sof zman kriyat shema. Sof zman kriyat shema means a quarter of the day. It's called 3 hours into the day. But it doesn't mean 3 clock hours. It means you divide the time between sunrise and sunset, and 1/4 in is sof zman kriyat shema. Okay? Others say you divide the time between alot hashachar and tzeta kochavim, not between here and here. The Alter Rebbe says between here and here. Also Vilna Gaon. Magen Avraham says between here and here. That's why his kriyat shema is always earlier. Magen Avraham was a primary commentator on the Shulchan Aruch. So he was of the opinion that you divide the time between alot hashachar. So anyway, we do from netzach hama till shkiyah, and it's 1/4 of the time between here and here. So it says the Rambam. Now that we have a little bit familiarity, we'll come back to this chart many times throughout the Rambam. Halakha tet. Ezeu zman kriyat shema balayla. When is the time of reading Shema by night? Mitzvata. The mitzvah is mishat yitziat hakochavim, from the time that the stars emerge, nightfall, ad chatzi halayla, till midnight. And again, midnight would be the time between nightfall and sunrise, midpoint. V'im avar ve'echar ve'kara ad shelo ala amud hashachar, if you transgressed and you delayed it past chatzot, but before dawn, yatzah yedei chovato, you fulfill your obligation. Shelo amru ad chatzot, the only reason the sages said the end time is midnight, ela kedei laharchik adam min hapshiyah, only to distance a person from negligence. But really, you can go till the next morning at dawn. So if you stayed up late at night, you forgot Kriyat Shema by night, you can always catch up until dawn. Halacha Yud, however, says the Rambam, HaKorei Kriyat Shema shel Arvit, achar sheya'ale amud hashachar. If you read the nighttime Shema after dawn, you're up all night for whatever reason, you forgot Shema, and after dawn you realize, oh, I didn't read Shema, and now you read it. Kodem hanetzach hama, even though it's before sunrise, lo yatzah yedei chovato. You haven't fulfilled your obligation. Ela im ken haya anus, unless you were very beyond control, extenuating circumstances, kigon shikar or cholev v'chayotze ben, like you were drunk or very sick or something like that, and you only realized, after alot, before nets, then you're good. The anus shekara be'edzeh. However, a person who was beyond control and ends up reading in this time, eino omer hashkivenu, doesn't say the last blessing of hashkivenu, because that means put us to sleep. You're not going to sleep. It's a new day, so it doesn't make sense.
Why? If you stayed up all night and
maybe you're going to sleep. Yeah, but it means halachic sleep by night time. Halacha yud aleph ve'ezehu zmana bayom. What's the time by day? Mitzvata. The ultimate ideal mitzvah is sheyatchil likrot kodem hanetz hachama. You should begin to read the Shema before sunrise. Kedei sheyigmor likrot ulevarech bracha achrona im hanetz hachama. So you can finish reading the last blessing with sunrise and start Shemona Esrei right away. That's called Vatikin. Sometimes over here we get to do it. If we daven early enough, in the wintertime, we literally daven Shemona Esrei at the moment of sunrise. We fulfill the mitzvah of Shema in the most ideal way. B'shi'ur zeh, the time it takes, says the Rambam, is kemo isur sha'a kodem shtalei hashemesh. You should begin about 6 minutes before sunrise begins. So the Rambam says it takes about 6 minutes to read all the blessings and the Shema and to reach Gal Yisrael. If you're a fast reader, that works. Some people need a little more time. If you delayed and you read Shema after sunrise, you fulfill your obligation, it's okay. Because the time is, again we said over here, till the end of 3 hours in the day, a quarter of the day. If you transgressed and delayed. The Rambam holds that reading after sunrise is called transgressing and delaying. That's not the halacha accepted. In Shulchan Aruch, it's 3 hours is the optimal version. Initially, you can read it till 3 hours in the day. Halacha Yud Bet. Misha hikdim v'kara kriyat shema shel shacharit achar sheyale amud hashachar. If you were early and you read the Shema of the morning after dawn, afal pi shehishlim kodem shtanetz hachama, even though you finished before sunrise, not with the sunrise as the ideal way, yatzah yedei chovato, you fulfill your obligation. Or b'shat hadchak, in a time of pressure, kagon shahaya mashkim latzet laderech. For example, you were early. You had to go on a trip very early in the morning. You could read initially from the moment of dawn. You don't have to go to the end of dawn and just before sunrise. You can go as early as you need, as long as it's after dawn, because you need to go on a trip. Halacha Yud Gimel, final for today. If you read Shema after 3 hours in the day, afilu haya anus, even if it was beyond your control, lo yatsa yedei chovat kriyat Shema be'onato. You have not fulfilled your obligation of reading Shema in the proper time. Ela hareu kekoreh b'Torah. We can't tell you it's nothing. It's the words of Torah, so you'll get reward for learning Torah. It's like reading Torah. But you should still make blessings before and after all day. Afilu echar v'kara achar shalosh shaot, even if you delayed and you read after 3 hours, because you're still saying Shema. How come by day it's not all day? By night the mitzvah is all night. By day it's not all day. Because the mitzvah is ubikumecha. When people are rising. People get up in the morning during the first 3 hours. They don't get up after 3 hours.
So no credit.
Yeah, so no credit all day.